Yeah.
it's just because it can quickly get an author to where they want to be as quickly as possible. Uh, for example, like she has like My Hero Academia sweater, and that's famous for essentially just taking all this like superhero trope stuff and being able to quickly assess the situation
Hmm.
to get to the stuff people really want to get to.
Yeah. Same thing as the Love Simon thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's able to like subvert expectations because of that
Yeah.
as well, and able to granted, it can create very like bland and very boring situations. Sometimes when you just follow the paint by numbers formula,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Uh, I think like horror is like a big one that tends to do that. From what
Right.
I've heard, I don't really watch horror movies, but a lot of people like who watch like the Saw movies or like any of like those like spooky ghost movies
Right. It's all very specifically timed out.
always complain about how formulaic they are and how it's like you have to give them jump scares.
Yeah.
They have to have a relatable main cast of like teenagers.
Yeah. And
You
somebody's
have
gonna die really early, and
you have to have good color characters. You have to uh, you have to come up with a reason why they don't just call the police
yeah.
or move out.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah. Those are the risks and challenges. Thank you. Did you? I saw a hand back there. Yeah. We'll go. You and then you.
Based off like what she said, you don't necessarily need to follow the maps to get a good story, but it's a standpoint that you could use. I guess if you're not clueless, but if you need like a push, is to go into the direction you want to go. You can take those formula, but if you already have an idea of how you want your story to be, if you don't want it to follow the arc or have beats like every like other chapter,
Yeah.
you could just create the story how you want it because it's your story. And as long as I think you have a setting that's relatable and you know your audience that you kind of want to target or read the story, you can have the character relate to them or to yourself and
Hmm.
have some not real life experience, kind of yeah, like real life experiences into the embedded into the story,
Yeah.
so people can relate to it like on a one-on-one level.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, related responses like it's fine to start there. It is useful for certain things, even though it doesn't make an automatically good story. Yeah. What did you want to add?
Yeah, yeah, it's not a bad thing to follow a formula. Like where you're watching a movie and you could tell what's gonna happen next. You could feel good about that, or you could feel good about like predicting what's gonna happen.
Hmm.
But when they do something different, then that's a big surprise. But that difference could also make or break your story because it could either enhance what you're watching or just be something unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's different. But I don't know what was the fun in that.
Yeah.
Or if you're watching like a story of a hero's journey, where the hero would mostly win his situations, right? And you could see that coming, but you would like to see how that happens. Or he could lose, and you're okay. And what will he go from there?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. So seems like there's a strong feeling in the class that like we want to know those conventions. Like even as filmmakers, I mean, we want to know those conventions. We want to start there. We want to look at what's happening, and we want to pick and choose we depart. Okay. One quick comment, Anthony.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I guess the plugging in part is good at first, and then I guess switching it up down the line can either better the story or even make it worse.
Yeah.
An example could be like Child's Play, the movies.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was something really good, and like the first three were pretty good, but then like towards the end, they try to throw in too many surprises that nobody really
Absolutely.
doesn't
Yeah.
really make sense.
Yeah, and you see that a lot also in like television series, like 2 seasons in, when they've run out of places for the characters to go, they kind of repeat. We're gonna move on, but there will be other times to comment on that one. So what aren't we covering here that's relevant to what we do? One thing I want to just like leave room for in this kind of discussion is that there is micro narrative in lots of things. So like we have a tendency in this class to like focus on features, series. I mean, I was just bringing it up myself. But I want you also to start to recognize how even a single picture tells a story. And we'll talk about this a lot more, especially once we start boarding out. But you can begin by just looking at loops on Instagram or GIFs out in the world or, any kind of image, even if it doesn't move, and try and understand if it's doing some of these things. Is there a reversal? Like, so I would argue that a lot of times there still is this element, even in a single image. And you'll get into this with the David Mamet reading, but he would call these kinds of activations part of drama. And drama is something that we do want to learn how to not control, but like carefully put where we want it to live. And so noticing it in these small places will help you to also see it in bigger pictures or a 5-minute film. Um, there's also ad work, which we're not going to really cover much in this class, but I always want to keep one kind of realistic tether to things you might do for work outside of school. And ad work functions using a lot of these same things, but it's important to notice how it kind of diverges in a separate goal. So this is an animation that was made with Buck. I'll find it. Um, And you'll see some of these same reversals or epic stories, but told in a short form. And then, more importantly, or what I really want you to notice, is with the goal of selling a product. So, see if you can kind of pick apart just a few of the ways that it becomes more about a product, but that emotions, reversals, and things like that are in service of that goal.
A long time ago, there was someone, and they were alone. But don't be sad, it was fine. But then, one day, they met another someone, which was scary at first. But then they realized, we should hang out. So they did. They shared things and learned things. And it was fun. But then they made it complicated. They made up all these dumb rules about who could be together, and forced others together for weird reasons. And it wasn't cool for a lot of people for a long time. But then, something happened. Everyone started to make their own decisions again. They got together with who they wanted, when they wanted. And getting together was fun again, like it was in the beginning. And we don't know what happened next, but we're pretty sure it kept getting better.
So this ad is, of course, a really well-designed, high production value ad, and it uses these little stories of people meeting each other, falling in love, and it takes these expectations of certain shots by repeating them and then switching up what's inside of them, making it kind of still refreshing to see what the changes are from shot to shot. But of course, there's also this product underlying that is the thing that's kind of gluing them all together. And we're not going to talk about this a ton in this class, but you do want to also start thinking about how the concepts we talk about in this class are very powerful tools. Storytelling is one of our oldest human traits. In the book by Noah Yuval Harari, Homo sapiens, or just sapiens, he talks about how storytelling is the thing that makes us able to collectivize in these big groups and kind of set us aside from like early other humans like Neanderthals. So how that gets used is kind of a superpower that you will all possess by the end of this course, or maybe already do. And so thinking about that and how things kind of fit together is, I would say, an ethical responsibility of yours. And of course, you're always going to need to innovate and change and grow. And so I've kind of said this throughout the lecture even so far, but whatever I say, you don't have to take it for granted. You can ask these as questions. And do so by, when you're watching, a lot of you said you love to watch anime. Like, start watching those shows and asking how it's working. How are they making you care about a character? How are they keeping you even just interested? I mean, think about what your body is doing when you like watch content. You're just like, for however many minutes it spans. And that is something that takes that superpower to achieve. What is it? Is it the action? Is it the visuals? Is it, the the motivations, the morals, the lessons? Which of these things are working for you when you see things that you are drawn to? And then how can you build, change, innovate? Um, a concept that you will need to like process here too is time. I think of IKEA assembly instructions just because they show what could take hours in a matter of frames. And the key thing I want you to take away about time is that time inevitably shows a change. Even if that change is like this kind of reversed expectation of something staying the same. But most of the time, time is going to show you something evolving, and that might be a character. That would be kind of one of those biggies. Is that like from the start of a story to the end of a story, a character needs to actually go through some kind of growth, and perhaps all the characters do. Otherwise, they would be called a throwaway character, somebody who just kind of shows up but doesn't necessarily go through anything or potentially even advance the plot. So what change do you want to show? That's another really important question when it comes to the types of films that you would potentially write for this class. And this is from Understanding Comics, which is something we might look at a few times in this class. For those of you who are interested in comics and haven't read this, this is like kind of a seminal text, and I can send you some PDFs of it if you email me. Talking about how there's inherently a space between shots in for this comics, but it applies to film too. So you can't depict every single second of somebody's experience. To tell a story, we also eliminate a lot. And so what are the pieces that can string together the change over a storyline that will allow you not to have to show every single second? So here he has these examples of like, okay, if the sun's here in this frame and here in the next, we assume that time has passed. Or if we go from someone holding a gun out to someone being scared, we make a connection there between those two, and it's our brains. We want to make connections. We want to see meaning in everything. And another aspect of time that I want you to kind of consider is difference. So I think someone brought up an antagonist earlier when we were looking at the character descriptions, and that's kind of what we're talking about, and it can occur in more than just two characters who are each other's opposites. But if one character is completely connected to every single aspect of their setting, their world, there's probably not going to be anything that they have to like really change or address. It's more of like a screensaver vibe at that point. And I bring up squash and stretch because this is still fundamental to animation too, right? Like you have in the act of animating characters that are different like materials or physicalities or whatever, and it's how they interact that even on just like a movement level, we see a story progress. And drama is a big part of that. And you're going to learn all about this in one of my favorite explanations of story, Three Uses of the Knife, which will be the reading in addition to the letter you're going to write me for this weekend. I looked at the learning survey. A lot of you were like, please don't give me any long readings. I don't think of this as a long reading, but it is probably the longest one you're going to have in this class. So don't feel like I haven't listened to you if this doesn't count as a short reading. We are going to do something with this next class though, so you're going to need to actually like think about it, process it, because there's going to be an activity. And well, either next class or Thursday, we'll see. But it will explain how drama applies to that and how we can start to like get drama out of something. These are all just more changed descriptions, but this to me says that even through repetition, so looking at like Andy Warhol, which like did a lot of the same images over and over again, we even through that repetition are kind of experiencing change. It's just the change of like our own physicality watching this thing and still staying put. So now we're going to take a little break, and we've already kind of begun the workshop. The activities are kind of intermeshed. But when we get back, we're going to focus a lot more on kind of starting to author.